And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the world. I am John D, and this is
Kanika.
and we are doing too much.
I was caught off guard for some reason.
How's your day going so far?
It's a beautiful day.
That it is. As we look through the windows of our home, today was a little chilly, but it was like the perfect chill. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy the walks we have. And I often wonder, I told this to you yesterday, like the people in the neighborhood know that we really do this walking thing.
Yeah. It's a dog that gets kind of amped up when they see Kingston and Bruno. And we used to see them out every morning. Now they know every morning they can count on us being out there, so they usually keep the dog inside. So it's like, look, we know in this window we shouldn't be out here with her.
Not until they get their dog right, because now our dogs don't bark as much as they used to.
Okay, our dogs are so brand new because they used to be straight savagery when they would see other dogs and people where we lived in the apartment. Now we in this neighborhood and they be walking like they got sense.
Well, it didn't start out that way. They were definitely barking, but I think
they were hyped like for a couple days, but then after that, it wasn't like that anymore.
I was like, these dogs bore me. Bark.
They were barking with a Grey Poupon accent. What I say?
That's crazy. Question for you.
Question of the day.
We're doing this podcast because I wanted to know on air, what have you learned over this 14 years of marriage? I know prior to us talking or getting on this episode today, you were thinking we may have spoken about what we've learned, but I think it was more so along over this past year. But I want to know, like, your idea of what marriage was in the beginning to this point. Did you learn? What have you learned? What have I been able to teach you as a man, as your partner, as your husband, the father of your children? What have I been able to, like, maybe like teach you? Like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know this could be done. Like, because I guess when I look at the way that you grew up, when you reference things, you make it seem like your mother was this superhero and she raised 3 kids with the help of your stepfather. But our dynamic is different. Mm-hmm. So what have you learned from your childhood perspective to this point now, looking like, okay, I mean, I guess you could look at different parts of your childhood where we reached, but there's parts of our marriage I believe we passed. Like, so what kind of like, okay, this is what I got out of it.
Okay, well.
It can be as broad as you want. I just want to know, like, how does one appreciate a relationship if you don't know the things that you learn from it? If you don't take time to, like, okay, why am I wasting my time with this person? What has this person done for me? Is this wasting my time? Could I be doing better? Like, because when I ask you sometimes, you say, you're really happy. Mm-hmm. So why? Because there were times where you weren't.
Yeah, okay. So first, giving honor to Birdie, who was the head of my childhood development. She, for the record, my stepdad didn't come into the picture until I was 15. And my younger brother was 10. And my older brother was already out of the house. However, he was a great influence. But yeah, my mom held it down. My mom was it. I would say that one of the things I learned from you, and this is recently, this isn't over time. No, it actually is over time, is I've definitely learned how different people can grow up. Like, I have friends that had all kinds of walks of life, but I didn't see it played out as an adult impacting the next generation. So raising kids with you, thinking about how you've grown up, like even as simple as what Christmas is supposed to look like, or as an example for you all. So when I grew up, Christmas, my mom used to give us, I mean, it was a beautiful display, but my mom, we didn't open gifts. My mom made our living room look like a toy
display.
store. Yeah. She set up our stuff. So you weren't going to spend your Christmas trying to figure out how to put this castle together. My mom would do it the night before. She would get my dad up too. And they would do it the night before. So when you came in, like it looked like the tree was lit, the fire was on, and the toys were out. And it was like, wow, right? So when Day in Dallas had Christmas, that's what I wanted. I wanted us to make sure whatever was already done for them, they didn't have to pull out. Like if it was clothes, they unwrap that. But any toys, I wanted to set up beforehand, and I wanted the lights on. So when they woke up, they would see the lights glowing up the stairs, and then they would go down, and then they would come and get us. That's how I saw it. John used to shit on me for what I wanted to do for Christmas. And I didn't understand why anyone wouldn't want their kids to experience
I know.
that.
Well, I know more so now when you were listening. Well, when I was listening to you, because I've heard you say this, and look, I saw it all. But I guess because I didn't have that, I was like, why are we doing all of that? That's giving too much. Like, so in my head, it's like, when you overgive somebody, they don't appreciate whatever it is. So in my head, I'm like, we're doing too much. And I didn't know the fine line of this is the most appropriate way for where they could receive the gift and be happy. And in my head, I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that he would say that? But it's true. That's how he took it. And then another example is like going to the grocery store. I would get, when Darius was here too, I would get them all the cereal they wanted. So if they all each wanted a different type of cereal, I got all 3 boxes. And they could open the boxes of the cereal that they wanted to eat. And John was like, what in the world? Like, I said, all 3 of the boxes are going to get eaten. Nothing's going to go to waste. And he was like, you open up 1 box at a time. No, I don't want that cereal.
But you taught me. Like in my mind, my father was like, you can't open up a new bag of chips until the first bag is gone. And with the cereal, and we barely had 2 boxes ever at any time. But if you opened up 2 of anything and 1 was still open, it was hell to pay. So it was like just me like, why are you giving them all of these options? To me, I feel like you giving them all these options is just more room for them to complain about something. But in hindsight, it was more likely for them not to complain about something.
Right.
But I didn't look at it that way because I didn't have that. And I was like, why are you giving them so much?
Yeah. So I learned that. I learned how different people can be growing up. And my thought was, when you have kids, you want to give them what you had and more. But it seemed like John was like, what are you doing? Like, don't do that. So I learned, as you started unraveling and growing up and listening to your sister talk about her upbringing as well, I was like, okay, this, you never realize, or maybe some people do, and I just didn't. I didn't realize how much your childhood can impact your parenting, and also like how you reason out things that didn't even seem like, for a kid, it seemed like this is great. And you were like, no, I don't think, you know what I'm saying?
Because I never got that piece. So I don't know what it could really do. And I was like, if you didn't have it, and you don't need to create this whole idea. Like, to me, I feel like you were giving more of a possible problem.
Well, in this instance, it made me more thoughtful in how I could advocate for what I wanted versus what John, because, I feel like with kids growing up, I really wanted them to have a good experience. And I feel like John was raining on my parade most of the time. And so it really made me advocate more for them to have these things, in spite of the fact, and you're very strong-willed. And so you would be like, no, I don't think that this is blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it made it where I had to make a decision as a mother to say, now these are the things that I will even have to advocate for them with their father. I didn't think that I would have to do that. And it was probably partially because when I was growing up, my dad didn't care what was going on with us. So whatever my mom chose as appropriate, it was appropriate, and he just rolled with it. As long as he didn't have to be involved in it, he just hands the money over. He'll get up in the middle of the night, put up these toys. But my dad wanted minimal effort, and he would let her roll. And you gave a lot of pushback, and I was like, I don't get this. I don't understand. So that was one of the things I learned. I guess I would say, too, to advocate for the kids in a different way, and also to understand how impactful someone's childhood can be when they start becoming parents themselves. And even when you were like, we didn't have a lot. You were somebody who got like Gucci and Ferragamo. It never crossed my mind that you were somebody who would want to restrict your kids.
Well, so I wanted to restrict them because in my head, at that time, I had already figured out. No, I guess I didn't. Like maybe by the time Day was 3 or 4, I was dialing back on the shoes because I was like, they don't know anything. And I was like, if we're going to create this thing, like it's going to be a problem later. Like if they were really into the shoes and clothes, they'd be asking for really expensive things. And as parents, we would want to get them what they want. But now I look back, I'm like, that was the best thing we could have done, was not introduce those things.
Yeah.
Because that, like, I think about the parents that provide for their kids like that. Like, those things are so expensive. And in my head, I know that all of these parents are not providing like that where their kids deserve $500-$600 shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or $100 outfit should be like for like a good occasion. These guys, they wear it for regular day, everyday school.
They do.
So in my head, I was like, what can I do to prevent my kids from caring about materials that mean nothing other than they want to be seen? And that was a part of that. That was like, why are you giving them all of that? But I mean, I want to, just to piggyback off of you, I want you to know what I learned from that, your experience. I learned, see, when you talk about your mother, I don't hear anything negative. It's typically only, that's what I'm saying. So you had the perfect mother, but I know you didn't have the perfect mother, because even as a parent, I know that I wish I could have done things differently. So when you describe the things that happened for you as a child, I'm trying to figure out what is the perfect amount to give, because I feel like your brothers and you were overcompensated for, like it was like you got blessed with things maybe too much because your father didn't play the role that could balance it. So your mother was making this for you guys to feel like everything was okay. Like you said, she was the superwoman. She did all of these things. So there were things that she overcompensated because she was just the mother. She wasn't the father in the aspect. So in my head, I realized that I was underselling. You were overselling. I was like trying to figure out what is the medium where the kids could get the most out of it.
Well, we didn't grow up spoiled. We didn't.
That's perspective.
My mom didn't. My mom didn't like overdo with school year. You got school clothes and school shoes at the beginning of the year. Like,
you don't think that's spoiled?
At the beginning of the year?
No, but I'm saying like there's kids that don't get it.
Okay. But what I'm saying is I never saw my mom as overcompensating because my mom was not flashy, and she didn't do that with us. So even with us when we were growing up, like I wanted a nice pair of shoes, but I didn't ask for Jordans. I had friends who were wearing Jordans and stuff. I didn't want that stuff. My best friend, as soon as the Carolina Blues came out, she had them.
I think
she wore a lot of.
It's miscommunication right now. So your brother had all of them.
No, he didn't. Kyle had one pair of Jordans. I promise to God. Kyle had one pair of Jordans. He might have had two. One when he was little, and I don't even know how those even came about. But another pair was when he was playing basketball. All of the team got it. And my mom was like, okay. But my mom didn't buy Jordans for Kyle like that. No.
I think it's still getting away from what I was saying. So again, your mother can do no wrong.
My
and
mom,
I'm trying
not,
to show you what I learned, because right now you're defending your mother, and I don't want you to, because I'm trying to give you what I learned.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm telling you that your mother was not perfect. So in my head, you have taken everything on, and so overcompensate was a wrong word. So let's try to just receive my message versus you trying to defend your mother. I'm serious. Like,
Look,
I want you to hear what I'm learning.
I understand. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm saying, like, there's a perfect formula that you can give where the kid can get the best message. We're trying to figure it out. So the way you were parenting, that was just your mother, maybe like on steroids, maybe. But it was given from your mother. You learned how to do that because of your mother. Am I correct? You didn't come up with that idea. You didn't say, I want to present
this was
these.
my childhood, so this is what we're going to. But it was the smarter thing. You didn't have to rap anything.
I'm still trying to give you.
I'm sorry.
Like, you're defending.
I'm going to cut this part out. Okay, go ahead.
You don't have to cut it out. I just want you to understand, like, I was trying to figure, like, before when I would use, like, you were doing too much in my head. I wasn't doing enough.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out what is the perfect formula for them to get this, where they can be like, you know what, my parents love me, I appreciate things. And in my head, I felt like they were going to be spoiled. They were going to, like, they didn't come out like that. So I can say that what you did was a better result than I anticipated. But I'm telling you, what I learned was that the way that I grew up, that I didn't get enough. Like, a whole lot enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were certain parts where you introduced to me and I was like, no, you don't have to do all of that. But I realized I needed that, or me and my sister needed that. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
even the statement where you said you don't have to do all of that doesn't mean you don't.
No. To check this out. If there was a formula that says you don't need to do that and you will get the best out of your kid, you would do that. You wouldn't say, but I want to do this anyway. If you do more than this, then you're going to lose. So it's like, what can I do to give them the best parenting where they can receive the message versus I'm going to give them what I think they should have? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like the picking and choosing. Is this important? Is this what I want them to have because of my childhood? Is this what I think that they should? This will make them be better adults. So I realized that I was cheated. Well, I would say I was cheated as a kid. That's me being an adult kid. Like, I wish I had some of those things where maybe I could understand a little more versus being controversial, saying, hey, this is the way you should do it, because I turned out just fine. Does that make sense?
Somewhat. If y'all saw a video, you would have seen all kind of facial expressions going through this. But I mean, I think that's just, it continues to go on as the experience. I didn't feel like my mom overcompensated. I didn't feel like she was doing too much. You're looking at your childhood and you're gauging, we're both gauging what was appropriate. And I felt like when I look at my brothers, I'm comfortable with, like, as far as how they are with, you know, what they find is important. They still feel like family is more important than anything in the world. Like, they're still very loving. They're still very carefree. And they were never people who were spoiled and demanded certain things. And so to me, my mom, you're right. I feel like my mom didn't do wrong. I think that she had the formula that I wanted to have for our kids as well. But, I mean, that's just, I don't know why I'm like that, but that's how I experienced when I think about my childhood and what it could have been versus what it was. I want to give my kids the best parts of my childhood. Not everything, you know, but the best parts of my childhood, most certainly.
Yeah, I guess ultimately I was just saying what I learned from was that it was just certain things that I felt like could create more of a problem than something that they can look back and say, this is what I needed.
Okay.
You know, anything else that you may have taken from
I definitely learned forgiveness and
What did you learn about forgiveness?
I learned that I have the capacity to forgive beyond what I thought I did. I came into the marriage and I felt like there were certain things that I was not going to stand for. I wasn't going to be, there was no understanding. It was just, this is how it's going to be. And I learned that you're in a marriage with a human and you're a human. And so there are things that you're going to do that are going to hurt your partner, and your partner will hurt you. And you have to learn that they're being human. You cannot be, so strict on. I mean, there are certain things that you're gonna, you better not ever hit me or, put me in danger or what have you. But there are a lot of things that being an adult, when I came into this marriage, I was not an adult. I was 28, but I was still in my head. I was still in my, learning who Kanika is stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I still had these real unrealistic ideas of what marriage was, who people were, and how our histories and our past impact us. So once you grow up and you're in the midst of having kids and you're partnering with somebody and doing living this life, you start to realize that stuff ain't really 1 + 1 = 2 sometimes, and sometimes it ends up being imbalanced. Sometimes it doesn't feel quite right. And I definitely learned forgiveness and flexibility. And I think from you stretched me to have to learn that. So I got that from you.
For sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of the lessons you don't ever expect to learn because you feel like that they should have already been there, and then you realize maybe that lesson wasn't given. But I guess what I got from you is that men's responsibilities I to be honest, I think that you are the same message that I grew up listening to. Like our marriage made me realize, or the last part of our marriage made me realize that I was listening to the wrong messages of what a man is in a marriage, as far as the husband aspect and the parenting. Like I didn't realize how much work that you were actually doing that I was not aware of. So I learned that, but I didn't learn it until you were tired as hell, and you was like, you know what? Why don't you start telling me the things you think you do and things?
I did. I was like,
But I'm saying, but the things that it was almost like you were trying to show me up, and I was like, these are the things that I've been doing, and these are the things that I've learned that I was supposed to do. The things that you were doing was never discussed. It was nothing like somebody said, hey, John, you got to consider this. Without our conversation of what you did and what you were doing and what you still do, like I wouldn't be aware of it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you this, most men aren't either. They have no idea the jobs that women do to make sure that the household functions, because men are so fascinated by bringing money home and making sure that they can live a particular lifestyle versus all the other things that goes on in the household. That's the reason why a lot of the households are out of order, because we're living on old traditional values of men. Men was just the breadwinner, and now you got women who can do everything just as much as a man now.
And the man's still the
still
breadwinner.
expect, and you still expect the women to do, the things that they used to do when they weren't working. That's a real job inside the house.
It is.
So to me, I feel like I learned how inadequate I was as a man because I was doing what society said men were supposed to do.
Yeah, I think probably in the last year, I would say that you have graduated from the idea of what we've been told or what we've seen growing up as a husband, and you've graduated into a partner. And people go into marriages and they think they're getting a partner and they think that they are a partner, and that's not always true.
Correct. And I believe that men are only doing the best version of themselves because that's the way they're supposed to do it. But
the way they think they're supposed to do it.
Correct, because they only know what they know. So they're not thinking. That's another thing that people do not think because they're doing what they saw. Mm-hmm. They saw these behaviors and they heard this. So it's say, this is the right way to do it. And if your woman doesn't know how to say, hey, in a way where, because, if you said something to me like, John, you could be doing more of this with it in a way that was like, girl, I'm doing this. I'm like, society says I'm doing this the right way. Like, if I'm not receiving the message, that's causing conflict. So maybe women stay away from it. It's like, you know what? I guess this man is just going to be like this.
Well, can I ask you, what was the thing that made you, what was the aha moment exactly where you were like, oh, I wasn't pulling my weight?
I guess when we were trying to figure out if we wanted to do this. And you were talking about how you were tired. And I'm like, I've been trying to take responsibilities off your plate this last 2 or 3 years. I'm like, you haven't noticed I'm doing this, this, and this, and this when you started naming these other things. And I'm like, I didn't know about that. And it was like, I was like, how can I really, like, I'm all about what I say. I say I want to do 50%. I really want to do it because I feel like nobody should get credit unless they doing it. And I want my credit because women always get this extra pat on the back. And I felt like I want that too. For real. And I was just like, and then when I found out, I was like, I need to do more because that's the reason why I don't get it. Because I feel like if men knew how to do it, maybe it wouldn't be such a disparity amongst parents. Like, because everybody knows, like women in this runs the household, but the man, it's bull. But I feel like if men knew what to do, they would do a better job at it. But now it's like, it's almost like changing your meal plan from meatitarian to vegetarian, but you don't know how to cook. So you was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep eating this meat because there are people that say it's still good. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's almost, I'd rather be comfortable than to get better. And I wasn't willing to do that. That's the reason why our communication in the beginning, if you remember, you was like, John, I don't know if this is going to work because I just can't take it. But now look where we are, the way we converse. It's like we really want to solve whatever possible problem it could be that's preventing us from growing. And I'm not going to say it's perfect every time, but I feel like the turnaround time, the way that we talk, what we learn from it, we continue to improve and we evolve into this couple that I feel like if people knew how to get to, they would work on. So okay. I definitely learned that I wasn't pulling enough or I wasn't pushing. I didn't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So it just wasn't because I didn't want to do it. Okay. Even when before I used to complain, like, and it was like, who wants to ask you something if you're complaining?
Yeah. I don't want to hear that mess. I just do it myself.
Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, that's just the consequence. Mm-hmm. So maybe to prevent somebody from asking me, but now I don't want to complain anymore because if somebody's asking me, that means they need the help. And before I used to think like people are taking advantage of my time. Like, you could do this yourself. Like, it's almost like, is this help or you being lazy? Mm. You see what I'm saying? So it's like me just trying to figure out how people are not going to take advantage of me. And I shouldn't be thinking that way of you.
I agree.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think. I think just the way that you parent and how the kids look at you, I learned that there was definitely levels to it. And at some point, I want the kids to be able to tell a story like, my father was a caveman at this parenting thing, and then he actually graduated into a fine young parent. But that's what I want, though. But is it anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
Birdie.
Shout out to that young lady.
My mom is awesome and amazing. And I can't say that everybody has the same feeling about a parent. But my mom, she's one of my very best friends. And she was a great example. Like thinking about how she grew up and how she took the good parts and she kept that, and she tried to create a different experience. The things that hurt her, she tried to create a different experience for us. Like, I'm really appreciative of her. So I'm appreciative of parents, not just moms. I'm appreciative of parents who try to change their kid's story. Thank you, Mama.
You know, I want to give a shout out to those of you who are actively accepting the responsibility that you could be a better parent. You're not just providing, you're not just putting them into activities, you're getting to learn and understand your kids' thoughts, because your kids think. They have 1,000 ideas in their head, and most of the time you don't hear any of them. But those of you that are engaging your kids actively, trying to get them to talk, just to show them that everything is okay, you know, the anxiety, the different feelings that they don't know how to describe, that you don't even know how to help them answer, but you're working on it. This shout out to y'all. Those of you who are leading by example, keep doing it. Those of you that think your kids are all right because their grades are good and they're playing sports, it's more to it. And I'm really worried of what parenting looks like today. And I just want to make sure that we're all sharing what works so that we can all become better parents, because we're all on the same team.
Yeah, let me add one thing before we get out of here. So just as a tip, if you guys are having dinner with your kids, we did this the other night. We did Would You Rather, and each person at the table would say Would You Rather, and they would give two options. So one person was saying, would you rather be a panda or a koala? Somebody said, would you rather what was another one they said? Would you rather be able to be a baby in your past or be a baby in your future? And then we learned that Day believes in reincarnation from these conversations, y'all. And and John even had asked, you know, would you want to have sex with the same person? What was it?
Would you rather have sex with as many different people as you wanted and not get married, or would you rather just have sex one time with the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life? You marry them.
Yeah.
And they both immediately chose the latter. Like, I'd rather just have sex once with the person I'm going to be with the rest of my life. It was like no thought.
I mean, yeah. So we just learned a lot. So I'm just saying, you know, if you want to throw that in as something you try out, give two options and everybody gets a chance. It was eye-opening.
For sure.
Have a great day.
Make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA, get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.